Hello, my name is Rachel Early, and I have chosen the topic of homeless people in a neighborhood. My neighborhood has always been a calm, peaceful place, with quiet neighbors and very little crimes. Not much happens in my neighborhood. It was peaceful, it was quiet, and it was always safe. Lately, the homeless have moved into this neighborhood. Most of the time, they're in the alleyways, next to our house, leaving their trash and their belongings. They keep asking for money and food. Of course, one feels bad for them. I and my family can barely feed ourselves, though, much less another addition. But they don't seem to get that fact, that we can't. Many of the neighbors really worry about them being here. They could cause more crime. What if they break into the house, they think, or end up killing us? And so my neighbors began to think of a way to get them out. So the question resides, do we do it peacefully or violently? Most of the time, the homeless people do not have the intention to cause harm. In the matter of fact, they are there to seek help. But they also don't know when to stop. They repeatedly ask for money or some type of cash, and this can get extremely irritating over time. And eventually, one will react with violence. But what does violence do? More specifically, to the brain. We already know that when in a dangerous or scary situation, we have an adrenaline rush, and either the response of fight or flight. But when you're homeless, can it have more effects than just fear? Yes, this can cause hatred of people and society, or the want to take revenge, in which results in the violent rock throwing at houses to get back at those who refuse to help, or the stealing of others' possessions, or the threatening of their children, or even going as far as murdering the residents so the homeless person can finally have a place to sleep in and some food to eat. After all, the government won't check for a few months. The homeless haven't always been homeless, though. Just as the rich haven't always been rich. In 1775, the British fled Britain in order to get away from King George III and his heavy taxing. They came to the Americas into the neighborhood of the Indians. These new British people began to build in what they found out was the Indian Territory. But where else would they go? They have no food. They had no help. They had no place to live. But they couldn't go back to the tyranny of King George. Or surely it would be worse than this. So they stayed in the neighborhood of the Indians, and through working together, they all became the Americans. There are many reasons people go homeless. Like a parent may kick out their child because they are pregnant, or they disobeyed the law, or perhaps the children ran away because their parents or siblings were abusive. Or maybe they ran away because they couldn't eat, or maybe the government took their houses because they couldn't pay the bills as work became too scarce. Well, one of my siblings went through this. He had graduated from high school a year ago. He was now 20. He had fell in love with a young 16-year-old girl who was still attending high school. Now, if she were 20 and he was 24, this would be perfectly fine. But he was an adult dating a minor. My parents told him many, many, many times that he had to stop and wait until she graduated herself. But my big brother was rebellious, so he continued to date her. By law, he was no longer allowed to enter high school grounds. But his girlfriend had invited him to watch a football game with her. My parents said, "If you go to that game with her, you will leave this house. We will kick you out. You are an adult." They had warned him of this many times in the past. But my big brother did not take them seriously. Whether he thought they were joking or he simply did not care, he went to that game with her. And he broke the law. In result, the last straw that my parents had snapped. He was given a few hours to pack up his things. He took a large backpack of his clothes and his utensils, and he moved in with his friends. But the father of my brother's friends became very irritated with my brother, and he too kicked him out. My brother went to a friend's house again, to a friend's house, 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 until he had been kicked out of every house. By this time, he got himself a job, but it was a part-time job. He was able to find himself a house he could stay in with a mean little dog and a different family, as long as he could pay the rent. The next time I heard of my brother, I heard he was homeless. He couldn't keep up with the rent. They kept asking for more and more, but he was barely in their house at all. He had ran out of his toothpaste. He had ran out of food. He was left begging for help. So, since the homeless never truly mean harm, but are homeless because of sad or harsh reasons, should they really leave through violence or through peace? Throughout society, a phrase is commonly said: violence is never the answer. If you had ever talked or approached a homeless person, they look at you with these sad, pleading eyes of hopelessness. All they wish to do is eat. And sometimes you can even have a conversation with them. You can find out why they're there and what happened, and maybe even how to help them, and how to help them help themselves. Now, I am not saying let them into your house, because that would be a very idiotic idea. Because the homeless are very desperate, and so they will take any chance they can get to get food or what they need. But I am saying supply them with the materials and knowledge to help them. Give them a location to go to wash their hair after giving them some shampoo. Give them a toothbrush and some toothpaste, and tell them a location to go where they can use running water. Help them find a job and give them a suit, and tell them, this pair is not to be dirty. This pair of clothes is to help you get a job. 'Cause I will not always be there, and I cannot always help you, 'cause sometimes I need to take care of myself, and I need to help my children, or I need to help my siblings. And over time, they will leave. They will buy their own house, and they will make a strong, happy family because you were the wonderful person that helped them. When there is peace, there is no intention of violence. Just how to make your enemy your friend. Your enemy will not hurt you because your enemy will love you. And it may take a year, or it may take a few months. But if you supply the homeless with a way to save themselves, they will leave when they succeed. In conclusion, violence is never the answer, and all it causes is anger and hatred. We may never know why the homeless are homeless, but they have their reasons, and a good portion of the time they may even regret their reasons. But just how the British could not go back to Britain, They cannot go back to a home that no longer exists. If they are treated with love and kindness and help, they will leave without ever causing harm, and you may just get yourself a wonderful new friend. Thank you for your time.